Hello, and welcome back to another episode of ICU. Today is a special episode. We are celebrating our 100th episode of this podcast. So that's incredible. I just want to celebrate that. I never thought I would get here. When I started this podcast back in 2022, first of all, I had never imagined myself being a podcaster. Like, the people in my life that know me, they were like, "Oh, you're gonna have a podcast. Good luck." Like, I don't think anybody really expected me to succeed. Not that they didn't believe I could do it, but just because it's not really my personality in my day-to-day life. But I really I really wanted to create a podcast because there were so few podcasts that talked about IC back in 2021, late 2021, when I was looking into this. And I thought, well, I've been specializing in this condition for about 2 years or so now. I have a lifetime's worth of experience in IC. So I feel qualified enough to start a podcast on this. And my initial plan for the podcast was going to be to have experts on to share, their different expertise based on whatever topic, we decided to talk about. But I also really wanted to have IC warriors come on and share their stories. So if you notice, the first couple, like maybe seasons 1 and 2, they were more patient heavy. They were more people telling their stories. And that was the vision that I had. And I love that I did that. I love that we had so many people on to share their story, share their struggles, share what's working. I feel like that was really an awesome way to get this podcast kicked off. Also, at the time, I am a new interviewer, I'm a new podcaster, so it was a bit difficult to get guests, like good quality guests, like doctors, pelvic floor PTs, dietitians. It was hard to get those types of guests on my show because, people who are guests typically want to be on a show that's established, that, that they can get some good spotlight on whatever they're doing. So long story short, if you notice that there were more patient stories in the first 2 or so seasons, that was the reason. And I think that's really awesome. I will say, when I think back to season 1 and me as an interviewer compared to season 4, I mean, I'm sure you guys can tell, like, it I feel like I have grown so much as a host, as an interviewer, because back in season 1, I was so not comfortable with it. I didn't know when the right time was to ask a question, when to interject. Like, this this has definitely been a skill that I have had to nurture and I've had to practice. So those of you that have been here since day 1, I'm sure you have noticed that the quality has gotten better. Also, just the general audio quality. I've been using the same microphone since day 1, but I was editing the podcast myself for the first 2 seasons, and then I finally hired an editor for seasons 3, and I'm still with the same editor for season 4. So back when I was editing, I didn't have any fancy software. I was just putting stuff together, taking out the ums, and hoping it sounds decent. So luckily, we have evolved and the quality of the audio has gotten better. In season 4, well, I've always put the video version of the podcast on YouTube, but I've been more intentional about it. Starting in season 4, I've been sharing more clips on my social media accounts. Starting in season 3 and 4, so you guys have probably noticed that if you follow me on socials. But the things that we used to talk about on the podcast, the conversations that we were having back in seasons 1 and 2. I mean, I just want to talk about the transformation there. So I personally, back when I started this podcast, I was still struggling with flares that were unpredictable. I I had no idea. Like, I knew stress triggered me, but I didn't realize, it was really my nervous system that was at the root of my issue. I didn't realize I could become symptom free from this condition because I had lived my whole life with it. So I just genuinely didn't know what was possible for me. So as I chose this career, as I really stepped into the role of an IC dietitian, like, yes, I was helping my clients. I was researching, I was putting together my Road to Remission program. Not only was I helping my clients, but I also learned so much that I applied to my life and to my health journey. And I got relief after doing that research and finding my root cause, which was a dysregulated nervous system. So I'm just so glad that things happen this way. I'm so glad that I did step into this role and did make the decision to leave the traditional dietitian role to start my business, Cali K Nutrition, because I might not have relief today if I hadn't done that. So I'm really grateful that things turned out to be this way. Back when I started this podcast, I really pushed the IC diet. I really thought that that was the solution for people. And that's, because doctors are telling us to follow it. That's because, um, everybody, personally, I felt like I had diet sensitivity back then. And over time, over the past 3 to 4 years of working with my clients, I've worked with over 220 or so people now in my Road to Remission program. Most of my clients aren't diet sensitive, and that is a huge, huge discovery that I think needs more attention, needs more research. The IC diet doesn't have solid research supporting it. It's based off of research studies that were questionnaire based, not like random clinical trials, not anything. Because it's hard to study the effect of diet on your bladder, diet on a condition like IC. So that's not like a dig at the researchers who did the studies like back in 2007. I think it's amazing that they did that. I think it's great that they were looking at the role of diet in managing IC. I think that, yes, some people, you could even say many people, have diet sensitivity. And Grace and I actually were just talking about this on episode 97. That can occur with some items, the alcohol, the coffee, the spicy foods, the citrus, those types of things. But I think it is overestimated just how many people are diet sensitive. And I think that the IC diet has kind of been turned into this big scary monster in our community because you get diagnosed, you get told to follow the IC diet, and you have that oh shit moment of like, oh my God, this is everything that I love. These are all my favorite foods. I love wine. I love whatever. I love coffee in the morning. It's part of my routine. It's like you lose a part of yourself when you're told to follow this restrictive diet. And I've been there. It's a crappy feeling. I feel like I had a void. As dramatic as that sounds, I feel like I did lose a piece of myself when I tried following the IC diet. It was incredibly frustrating. I messed up a bunch of times. I felt a lot of guilt. I would flare and I'd be like, oh, it's my fault. I'm the reason I'm flaring. I was so hard on myself. And I see that in a lot of you. Just when I'm like scrolling through Facebook support groups and stuff like that. It's like, no, you're not causing your pain. It's not your fault, first of all. But I just think that the messaging surrounding the IC diet needs to be adjusted, where it's more so of this diet or removing these certain irritants could help you when your symptoms are flaring up, but this is not meant to be a long-term solution. If you want to find out if you have diet sensitivity, do an elimination diet, but don't assume that because you were diagnosed with IC that you are diet sensitive. That's like one of the main mistakes I see people making. And then they start developing this fear of food, which when that happens, your nervous system gets stuck in fight or flight. It views the food as dangerous, and it keeps your body stuck. It keeps you stuck in that symptom flare cycle. And that's not going to be conducive for healing. So, over time, I guess to circle back to where I was initially taking this, like I used to push the IC diet because I thought that was the solution. I thought that was what was best for people. That's what doctors recommended. But in the past couple of years, through my professional experience working with my clients, I'm observing that that is not the truth for my clients. So I'm hoping that you guys, by listening to this podcast, you are also challenging some of the beliefs that you might have had about the IC diet or other things related to IC or OAB. So that's probably one of the main things that has changed, one of my beliefs that have changed. I also feel like I was always chasing this idea of remission. And so remission is going to be defined differently for everyone. And for me, I always said remission would be at least 6 months of zero symptoms. I don't have to follow any diet. I don't have to take any meds. And like that's what it looked like for me. And since I would have the occasional flare-up, I never thought like that I was achieving that, but people would be like, how'd you get into remission? How'd you get into remission? I'd be like, I'm not in remission. And it just, I don't know, it didn't feel like that word ever aligned with me. And I do feel like I was just chasing this idea of what I wanted my life to be like, or what I needed to accomplish in order to, I guess, like have credibility to work with you, to work with my clients, to work with you guys. I came to realize I didn't need that. I think I have credibility based on my educational background and my personal experiences. But the past 3 years I would say the turning point for me was episode 59, where Grace came on to talk about the nervous system, the role the nervous system plays in chronic symptoms. And that was my first introduction to the nervous system, the whole world. We're just going to call it the whole world of nervous system. That was my introduction to that. And it got me thinking about my personal experience. And I had always been, my IC symptoms had always been triggered by stress and anxiety. And I was always clenching my pelvic floor when I was stressed. And my symptoms improved when I took Xanax. My symptoms improved when I was calm. Like that episode like gave me some light bulb moments, I guess. That was the trigger for me to start learning more about this. So after that conversation with Grace, I joined a couple programs for nervous system regulation. I'm more of a program type of person rather than like a DIY person. I joined Vital Side, which is a great program. I joined this program by a woman named Irene Lyon. That I've come to, I actually joined another program within the past year, but anywho, I've come to find out that I am a type of person who I really can't do self-paced courses. I need I need somebody coaching me. I need coaching for this. And so I mean, I don't want to get into my story too much, but Grace has helped me immensely. My therapist has helped me immensely. And long story short, I realized that, I need to figure out what's causing my bladder pain, what's causing the frequency and urgency, or what caused that before, because at the time I started this podcast, I had relief from those symptoms, but I was thinking I need to figure out what's at the root of this. And I was never really a root cause type of girl. It felt like a woo-woo type alternative medicine, like lingo term. And I've always been really skeptical of that stuff. But once I dove into the education and learned, how your nervous system can affect your whole body, it all, like, I had so many light bulb moments. I was like, well, no wonder I had IBS my whole life. No wonder I had bladder pain. Like, my nervous system being stuck in fight or flight was causing my pelvic floor to clench, and that was causing my muscles to be tight and irritating to my bladder. So, that triggered some pelvic floor dysfunction. And then once I identified that those were the problems and addressed them, you guys know this story. You guys know what I've done if you've listened to past episodes. Like, how I got here. And I would just say, like, that episode with Grace is what really got me on the right path. Because before that, I was chasing quick fixes and like a miracle. I would do anything for relief. I would take any medication. At the end of my journey, my doctor recommended I take Elmeron, and even though I knew the risks, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try it. But I'm really glad that I didn't, because I don't think it would have helped me. So that's kind of how I evolved in terms of my beliefs. And as my beliefs evolved, so did my program, so did Road to Remission. We used to start our clients when they joined us, they used to do an elimination diet right away. We don't do that anymore, because people would come in and do the elimination diet and they'd be so stressed out, they'd be so fearful, so anxious, and then they'd get to the testing phase and it'd be like, well, is it the food that's triggering you, or is it your stress or your fear? And it was just really messy. So we've updated Road to Remission 3 times now. This is the 4th version. The version prior to this 4th version, so the 3rd version, we started having people do more nervous system work, and we kind of gave people the option of, do you want to work on your nervous system first, or do you want to work on your diet first? Well, now in this most up-to-date version of Road to Remission, we have everybody coming in and doing 6 weeks worth of modules that teach you how to regulate your nervous system, just because that is the top root cause among our clients. Our clients who get relief are the clients that are really giving it their all in terms of like the practices that we're recommending in the program. They're the ones that are showing up to group coaching calls and submitting their symptom logs, and it just was enough of a commonality that Beverly is my support dietitian, we decided, like, this is a change that is going to benefit the majority of people. And the results so far are really great. Our clients are having really great success starting with the nervous system work. So if you haven't gone down that path yet of investigating if your nervous system is your root cause, I would highly recommend spending the time. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be quick, but it is so worth it. If you want to learn more, the nervous system focused episodes of this podcast are numbers 59, 65, 80, 83, 91, and 97, I think. Pretty confident in that. But we have lots that you can learn. And Grace's podcast, it's called Heal with Grace. Also fantastic. I have a lot of listeners that listen to me and also listen to her. So I would also recommend that resource. So yeah, that's kind of the evolution of my beliefs, my Road to Remission program, this podcast. I mean, we are pretty guest heavy, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like I don't love solo episodes. I feel like it's just weird that I'm talking to myself. I know I'm talking to you guys, but when I'm recording, it just feels weird. So I love having like a guest that I can ask questions to. We can have some back and forth. We can banter. We can joke. I really thrive in that setting. So I hope you guys enjoy the interviews that we do. And if you ever have a guest that you think is a good fit for this podcast, please let me know. I've been reaching out to a lot of guests that are open to coming on. So I'm hoping that we can record some of those exciting episodes soon. But yeah, just let me know. You can slide into my DMs and just let me know. So, let's dive into the top 5 episodes based on the stats. So I thought this was fun. I went back and looked at, out of the 99 episodes we have available, what were the top 5 based off of how many plays they got. And the results kind of surprised me. Some of them did, some of them didn't. So we're going to start with number 5. And this was the very first episode called Being Your Best Advocate. And this episode, I thought it probably made the top 5 because it's so old. It's been around for 4 or so years. Like, I'm sure a lot of people started there, but that episode was really great. It was with this woman named Jess. She was a coach of some sort. She was like a lifestyle coach. She's doing like realty. She's selling houses now, but like she was so good at coaching. She had the perfect personality for it, but she just had to make the decision to pivot in terms of her career. She has a family now, but Jess is awesome. We had a really great conversation about health and advocating for your health. So if you want a throwback, go check that out. The 4th top episode was number 51, which is a solo episode that I went into the 6 things you should stop doing if you want relief from IC. So maybe you guys really like that one because it was a bit clickbaity, the title. Sorry to clickbait you guys, but I'm never going to give you like bad information. So I filled that with, I'm sure, good information. I forget what the 6 things were, but I can only guess at what they are. I feel like I usually say things like, you should stop spending so much time on Facebook support groups or Reddit threads. You should stop chasing this magic solution, this quick fix type approach. I should listen to that one again. Anyhow, number 3 was episode 17, which was another solo episode called Why Everyone with IC Should Do an Elimination Diet. Very interesting. I feel like there are limited resources out there on doing an elimination diet for IC. So I'm not surprised that this one was popular. I feel like when people hear my content, wherever they're finding me, and they're hearing that you should be testing the, quote unquote triggers back into your diet, they're like, oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to do that. A lot of people think they're supposed to follow the IC diet forever, and that's just not the truth. So, if you're not sure if you're diet sensitive or not, go listen to that episode. Give it a shot, do an elimination diet. And if you need help, we still help our clients do that in Road to Remission. So if you ever need that guidance and that structure, we are here. The number 2 top episode was number 72, which was titled, Is it IC, pelvic floor dysfunction, or both? And the guest for that was Dr. Nicole Cozine. And I'm not surprised. Nicole is like a little celeb in our world, and she's super, super knowledgeable. She has her Pelvic Sanity podcast. And I think a lot of people with IC, have both that diagnosis and the pelvic floor diagnosis, so it can be difficult. But long story short, what Nicole was saying in that episode is it really doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, the treatment is going to be virtually the same. So she recommended not to really get caught up on the diagnosis. So go check that one out if you are interested. And then the number 1 episode of ICU as of right now, this could change, but it was episode 59, titled What is Nervous System Dysregulation? And that was with Grace. And Grace and I already told you guys, this was the episode that changed things for me. Grace has been such an incredible, I guess I'll call her coworker, but incredible coworker, friend, resource for me on my journey, but also on my journey of helping my clients. Absolutely fantastic. She now does a monthly Q&A call in Road to Remission, so our clients can ask her the questions that they have as they go through our nervous system series. And her answers are phenomenal. Her coaching is fantastic. Everybody always leaves feeling so good after those calls. So that episode you guys seem to really like. So we love that. In terms of total streams of this podcast, I thought this number was interesting. It was 68,265 streams. So that means this podcast was listened to over 68,000 times, which is astronomical in my brain. I'm so glad that I started this podcast. And I don't know if you guys are interested in this, but I'm just going to give you my top 5 episodes just in case you're interested. So I would say, and I don't think I have an order in this really, I just thought, which episodes did I share the most? Which episodes were I most excited to put out? Like that type of thing. So I would say the most recent episode I did with Grace on how to overcome diet sensitivities was one of them. I feel like this was a topic we really needed to talk about and get that episode out there, because a lot of people think that they're going to be diet sensitive forever if they have diet sensitivity. And the truth is, you're not. You don't have to be. There's stuff that you can do to overcome that diet sensitivity. The second one is episode 91 on nervous system regulation. The remedy lies in safety. That was with the co-authors of the Pain Reprocessing Therapy Workbook, Vanessa Blackstone and Olivia Seneko. Their book is phenomenal. Go read it. I recommend it to everybody I come in contact with. I've read it twice. That episode was the second episode that I had them on for. It's more of like a part 2. The first part was episode 80, but I feel like I really like this episode. So yeah, and I met Olivia in person when I was in California, and she is lovely. The next one is number 93, where I told my story of how I healed from IC and OAB. People kept telling me, like, you need to share your story, you need to share your story. And I was like, well, I did back in season 1 of this podcast. And then I realized, I was like, oh my God, back then I was still flaring. I still had symptoms. I was still struggling. Like, I need to update this story. So this is a totally updated story. Not gonna lie to you guys, when I recorded it, my software totally glitched. And I had to like re-record different parts of it, and it just was a horrible experience for me, but we made it work. So I'm glad that is out there. I can easily share that to people who say, like, how do you get relief? How did you get relief from this? Because that's a loaded question. I get that a lot. The next one is episode 83, titled, Yes, You Can Heal Your Bladder and Pelvic Pain. That was with Rachel Goffman. She is she's either a PT or OT. I can't remember exactly at this moment. But what she really got me thinking about was the idea that you can heal IC and OAB and like whatever condition we want to talk about. Because right now, I mean, interstitial cystitis, this is a diagnosis of exclusion. This is a diagnosis you're supposed to get when doctors can't find a cause. There's no structural cause. There's no explanation for your symptoms. And so they say there's no cure for this condition. Well, I'm not going to go ahead and say there's a cure, but I can tell you that healing is possible. And Rachel really she helped me shift my belief there, because before I was chasing that like remission, and I had accepted that, okay, maybe I'm not going to reach remission. But that's a really great episode if you want to believe that healing is possible. I highly suggest listening to that one. The last one, it's a tie because they're both on a similar topic. So episode 55, What to Expect at Pelvic PT, that was with Dr. Janelle Howell. I think she got married since then. She has a new last name. She's a vagina rehab doctor. That was a great episode explaining what to expect at your first pelvic floor PT visit. That tied with the last episode 99, with Lauren Carver, where we did a pelvic floor PT Q&A, because that also addressed some of the same things that Janelle did, but we added some more questions in there. So I would say those two tie for spot number 5. So those are my top episodes. I would love to hear your top 5 episodes. So keep an eye out for a post coming from me on probably Instagram asking you for your top 5, or you're always welcome to email me your top 5, reach out via DM. But I do just want to say thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for supporting my podcast. If you haven't left a review and a rating, that goes a long way for me. It helps this podcast get more exposure, get more credibility. So when I go to have bigger guests on, they can see that, oh, this podcast is legit. This has a following. This has good ratings. So that really goes a long way. And yeah, I really just, again, want to thank you guys so much for being here. And here's to many more episodes of ICU.